Schott, who's with us here as the meteorologist in charge of the New Orleans office. And then you'll also hear from Dr. Sean Wilson from the Secretary of the Department of Transportation and Development. We're also welcoming today Major General Diana Holland, who commands the Mississippi Valley Division of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, headquartered in Vicksburg, Mississippi. As you probably are aware now, last night Hurricane Laura began to rapidly intensify. It is now a Category 3 hurricane and anticipated will make landfall very early tomorrow morning in Cameron Parish as a Category 4. I'm going to make a couple of points and then yield the floor to Ben. We need everyone in southwest Louisiana paying very, very close attention to this storm and heeding the warnings that have been going out for a number of hours.
like criminals, and that's not fair.
Not America.
Representative LeGrand.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could just ask you the same question I asked the last witnesses. When did you, if you file an affidavit here, or when did you first make?
I didn't made any to employers because I was working for Election Integrity Fund. I gave my affidavit the same day on November 4th.
Okay, so you.
I don't know what happened with those affidavits, and I never met anybody from Tom Team until, like, not even now. Like, I haven't even met anybody yet.
Okay, you filed. So you're saying you filed an affidavit on this on November 4th?
November 4th.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
I gave all the ballot numbers, the last names, the table number, everything that I observed the same day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative LeGrand. Next, we'll go to Representative Riley.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to try to understand what this was like when somebody tried to challenge a ballot. So you would say I challenge a ballot, then what would happen after that? What was a series of events?
Even before the supervisor or the poll worker would respond to the challenge, the Democrats would just pounce and say, what are you challenging? And then when we try to give them what was the basis for challenge, like as I said, they had no clue because they were not trained. Their only training was to block the GOP people. So when we would say this is what we are challenging, they'd be like, they're clueless, obviously. And then the poll workers, they would be hostile. And they're like, we are not going to stop what we're doing. If you have a problem, you go take it up with the supervisors. They were all in on it together, so nobody was going to listen to it. Not a single challenge was ever entered. And this was the same thing happening.
So then if you went to the supervisor, he would not do anything?
No, nobody would do anything.
Okay.
So in addition to that, thank you. In addition to that, when there was no Democrat challenger, which I witnessed in the minority of times, I would make a challenge and the head of the table would say, you know, what's wrong? And I would say, this is wrong. And they say, no, that's not wrong. And I said, no, I'm challenging it. So, I mean, for example, just one example is I challenge you for filling in the Democrat straight ticket. Is that, can I challenge that? No, it's not a challenge. No, document, just push it through. That's what they did.
Oh, thank you.
Representative C.A. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, Please indulge me. As a woman from the city of Detroit, a woman who has lived, I'm talking about me now, who has lived in the city of Detroit all of my 62 years, and having spoken with many, and by the way, thank you, having spoken with many people who worked the TCF or TFC. TCF.
All right, let's let Representative Johnson. Continue, and please get to your question, Representative.
I will. So my question really to you, Mr. Chair, I'm going to repeat it again. These people, our guests, are sharing information, just sharing and sharing and speaking and speaking. No one is under oath. The world is watching us right now, and the world is watching right now, and there are one person after another who's testifying or who's making allegations, because that's exactly what they are, allegations of wrongdoing in the city of Detroit. I wonder, and I'm going to ask you the question. Did you see any cameras at the TCF Center? All right, so.
And Representative, I just want to remind you, I think it was the purpose of today's hearing to hear from people across Michigan who witnessed things at the TCF Center. That's why we're here.
Well, you know,
So-
here, and I'm not going to argue with you about
why
that.
we're here. So
Okay, so they're
I think
here, but they're
that's-
taking so much time, and I see no Detroiters. There is one Detroiter. Stop that.
Please continue, Representative.
And there is one Detroiter, but I have many emails. Since there's no one who you have in this room to represent Detroiters, except a couple of us in this room, I have emails from Detroiters. We've taken, what, 2
Representative,
hours?
What's your, did you have a question? I'm willing, please stop yelling.
We
People
need
in the
to-
audience, let me handle this. Representative, listen, we've had hearings in the past, as you know. We'll have more hearings. Today, we've invited Mr. Giuliani, and Mr. Giuliani has brought forward witnesses that he says have firsthand knowledge of fraud. That's what we are doing today.
And
you wanna
if
talk
we
about other
want to
hearings,
find out if,
Please let me finish.
yes.
All right. So if you want to do other hearings, we're doing more hearings. But today we're here to hear from these people. So do you have a question for these witnesses?
No,
ma'am?
I have some concerns,
All right. Well,
many
we're-
concerns, and I want to just
I'm gonna
share
rule
with you
out of order.
what
all right?
the
Out
concerns
of order. Do you have a
are.
point of order?
I'm sorry.
Do you have a point of order?
Yes.
What is your point of order?
Point of order is to have them under oath.
You're out of order. As I've said, this is something that is not done here in this state. It's really only.
It may not be done under the state, but you're allowing people to come in here and lie, and I know they're lying.
Representative, you're out of order. I've indulged you, but you're out of order, and we're going to move on.
On behalf of my witnesses, I would like to point out that every single witness we've presented here has sworn an affidavit as to all of these facts.
And so,
Representative, please, I gave you some room there, but we're going to move on. We're going to go
May
now.
I say something, please?
Sure.
If that is what you want me to do, I would do it. And I will still repeat the exact same thing I watched. And you know what? I also want to say one thing. If it is a lie, it may change because a liar has to have a lot of memory power. If it is truth, you can ask me in the middle of the night, it'll still be the same.
All right, I'm going to take this here. Please stop. We're going to move on now to Representative Lefebvre.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it very much. Audience members, we're not going to be able to get to the end of this if we continue with interruption. So I would ask a little bit more patience with us. I have two questions, as we have two witnesses. I hope that's okay, Mr. Chairman.
If there are relevant questions, I will let you proceed.
If they're not relevant, Mr. Chairman, please rule me out of order. I would appreciate it. Question number one, as I heard from, could you say your name again?
Hema Kolanagi Reddy.
Hema, thank you.
You want to try that?
I'm going to try it once. I'm not going to try it twice because I got a bad memory. I heard that there are sequential ballots from one street called Goddard Street that have no dates.
Correct.
Approximately how many would you say?
Each box would have 50 ballots. There were about two, three boxes there. I was already tired because we have no chairs. So I took down, after 20, 25 names, there's no point because you can see what's going on. So I immediately wrote down all those details. Gave a sworn affidavit to Election Integrity Fund. And I said, this is what I witnessed. These are the names, these are the ballot numbers, and this is not the address, but then I told them that it's Goddard Street is something that just stood out because you can see it on the highway, so I know that name. I'm like, I don't even know what's happening, and we were told not to challenge anything at that point. Because they said this entire process needs to be challenged, so don't challenge. Try to stay in. try not to get kicked out. So that's what I was doing.
Very helpful. Thank you. Andrew, approximately how many duplicate ballots did you see in general? And then, if you could, approximately how many of those duplicate ballots, and these are your words, not mine, do you believe were stolen or taken off of the table and brought to places that you believe they shouldn't have been brought to?
So, as my responsibility to stand in the center of the room by the duplicate table, an employee would come up and need a duplicate ballot, right? For example, just to layman's term, let's say there's a coffee stain on the ballot, right? Which none of these ballots had any real issues from as far as I know. They're all tabulator issues. But they would come grab a ballot, and my responsibility was to follow them to their table, to be the challenger, to observe over it. So there would be me, there would be the workers, and there would be a Democrat challenger, and we would observe over it. Throughout the entire time I volunteered, I would say between 2 dozen to 3 dozen. And there were times where we had people stationed around the room. And so if there was someone who was stationed, like a Michigan GOP volunteer, right, was in a specific area, I would
So Colonel Phil Waldron is here. Please, when you're ready, Mr. Waldron, can you explain why you're here, what your background is, your expertise, and when you're ready, please begin.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here looking at some of the vulnerabilities that have been mentioned on the floor of the U.S. Congress and Senate that have been widely published in, publicly available documentaries. So we began looking at the problems immediately after the election, doing an analysis on anomalies in the data, and then we also did some forensics on a couple of locations up in northern Michigan in Central Lake Township and Antrim, and then talked to folks at Star Township. And all this information is in affidavits as well, sworn affidavits. In a nutshell, we began to look at anomalies in the voting systems. We looked at publicly available information from your state. First thing we noticed was that there are 643 precincts in Michigan with a voter turnout above 80%, which is a little bit anomalous. There were 21 precincts that were over 90%. 10 precincts that had exactly 100% voter turnout, and 6 precincts that were over 120% voter turnout. So as we began to look at that, my team focused on anomalous patterns where votes were entered in an amount of time that was physically impossible for the tabulation machines to process the votes. And so we found four spikes in the analysis that exceeded the tabulation machine's ability to process that amount of votes in a timeline, and that was in Kent County, Macomb County, Oakland County, and Wayne County. And again, this data was from Dominion and published, in open source. So those anomalies pointed us to a couple other things that some of your previous witnesses, who I just heard tonight, but the incremental absentee vote punches there was a big move from 652 on the morning of the 4th. 16,000 absentee votes were processed. Between 6:52 and 7:49 local time on the 4th, an additional 213,429 absentee votes were processed, and this aligns with some of the observations that the previous witnesses made. And then at 11. $11:15 that same morning in a time period of about 8 minutes, which correlates to the time our previous witness, Miss Jessie, testified. There was 56,098 votes processed in an 8-minute period. Now, each one of these machines can process about 20,000 votes an hour. So you can do the math yourself, or it's in our affidavit. So the anomalous activity led us to believe that just looking at the data, that there were red flags for fraudulent activities, and we have subsequently asked for our team or someone else to do the forensic analysis to determine exactly what happened with those votes and those spikes that could not have been mathematically processed with the amount of machines that were present in the facilities. Our team also went up to northern Michigan to the Central Lake Township. We do have an affidavit from Miss Judith Koslowski. While we were up there, she had a tabulation or retabulation, and showed a pretty significant amount of change in the votes. We published an affidavit with those key elements that showed differences in the data. The data runs and the tapes, and I believe I've provided that to you as well. And then a declaration by Robert Marsh, the Star Township supervisor. A couple of the excerpts. When he said, upon examining the tape at the close of the polls, I could see that President Trump had clearly won the presidential race in Star Township. He said, I believe the numbers were 462 for President Trump, with Joe Biden receiving 161 votes. Normally, when a candidate has such a large lead, it's safe to assume who the winner would be. Early the next morning, my wife received a phone call from a friend asking what happened to Antrim County going blue, meaning Democrat. At 7:36 that morning, I was texting our stats representative, Tristan Cole, to find out if those are the actual results. At the time, Tristan advised me that the numbers were not right, that Antrim County was reporting 462 votes had been credited to Joe Biden, and President Trump had only received 10 votes. So we saw numerous examples of numbers moving, numbers being flipped and switched. As you realize, the Antrim County is where the 6,000 vote glitch occurred. And if you look at the numerous references in the guidelines for elections and the Help America Vote Act, the Federal Election Commission Voting System Standards, and the Federal Information Security Modernization Act, an error rate is permissible for 1 out of 125,000 ballots. And if you look at just what happened in Antrim County, the error rate was 8.3. So it puts it about 750 times the allowable limit. And according to the regulations, that should have disqualified. They went later and changed that from a glitch to a clerical error, which, they kind of changed up the reporting on that a little bit. In a nutshell, we found several other things using open source data. There is a gentleman named Eric Lutzen, and he has matched up a list. He started looking at voters above the age of 80 that were registered for voting and did vote in Michigan, and 17,327 Michigan voters also had a corresponding obituary. And I didn't print that whole thing out, but I can give you that website for the tabular data, and it's about 350 pages or so. So in the essence of time, I'll close it out. We'd be happy to chat if there's any other specific information that I can provide to you about our findings.
Sure. Thank you. So I just want to understand, I mean, I think we was there something you were going to add?
I was going to ask him to spend a few minutes on Dominion.
Okay.
The company. He knows quite a bit about it, and he's one of the few people that has examined their machine.
Okay. Well, let me ask my question, and then we'll.
the difference in the administrator card, which is the software load. The poll numbers were pretty much the same, but votes in between those two runs shifted. So there's a discrepancy in the forensics.
How did you find that?
The discrepancies
Huh?
in the actual tapes, in the tabulation
Is that one
tapes.
machine?
One machine, yes.
It made that many mistakes?
They made a lot of mistakes.
Did it do anything right?
It kept pretty close to the other votes, but it did not meet with the standards of the
pretty
Federal
typical of a
Federal
Dominion
Election
machine?
Commission. We have not examined forensically in this election more than this machine. It's pretty much been blocked.
So
It's definitely is far outside the limits of the 1 in 250,000 vote error rate.
So
Based on that, would you want to examine more machines?
Yes, sir.
just to understand, so what the clerk has said is that, and I heard you say there were two tapes, and then you kind of went through how there were some differences on the two tapes. What the clerk has said is that there was a problem basically with the way the count was displayed on the website, but that when they looked at the tape, that the count was accurate, and that would have been caught in the canvas. Do you agree with that, or do you disagree?
So the votes were canvassed on election night, according to Ms. Kozlowski, and approved. And for some reason that she did not know, she was asked to come back in to redo. She said on this is the declaration of Ms. Judith L. Kozlowski, and it's signed and dated, and this declaration
Thank you. All right. Representative Lefebvre.
Yeah, thank you, Representative Johnson. If you and I agree on the thing you were just talking about, that could be a real problem if something is different. But Colonel, I've got. Tell me if I'm wrong. 10 precincts in the state you believe voted at 100% approximately?
That was according to data from the state, yes, sir.
6 precincts at above 100%?
Correct.
Add those up for me. About how many votes is that?
We just looked at voter turnout, so I didn't add up the votes from those precincts.
Think you could send me an email? Let me know the total number of votes there.
Why don't you, we'll have him send it to the committee. We'll work with that. We can send it to the clerk. Continue, Rep. Lefebvre. Did he answer your question?
Yes. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. All right. And I wanted to, we had talked about Dominion. Was there something that you wanted to discuss about Dominion? I understand that perhaps you've examined these machines. I know for us, we can't get Dominion to come in and testify. And one thing that I would like to do is examine the machines to understand, because my belief is that if we could look at the machines, if we could examine their software, we'd have a good idea then of whether all this stuff is true or not. But the problem that I have is that because Dominion won't come in. They won't testify. They won't provide us machines. They won't do these things. It's hard for me to wrap around this Dominion theory because basically we're going off of what people are saying and we're hearing nothing from Dominion. So, as we're investigating, I think that would be very valuable to us. But from what I understand, you've looked at this. So what can you tell us about the Dominion voting system?
We began looking at these companies, as I mentioned, the team that we joined that had begun studying this back in 2018 after the Kentucky governor's race, and then several races in Texas with the ES&S machines, we really started looking at the lineage of these companies and the code to the software, and they really seem all go back to Smartmatic or SGO Smartmatic. They do have licensure agreements between Smartmatic and Dominion, between Smartmatic and ES&S, which is another major voting machine. And really the core of these voting systems are rife with vulnerabilities. I was an information warfare officer, so I looked at ways to penetrate, defeat, and corrupt other systems, whether it was through electronic warfare, through other means. And these systems are highly vulnerable to penetrations at multiple levels throughout the system. The easiest way and the most discreet way is USB drives. In classified systems in the military, I worked with both secret and top secret and other special access programs. All those machines had the USB drives deactivated. You could not use them just because of the critical vulnerability. These machines all work off of USB drives, and so we've found in dealing with Pennsylvania and in Arizona, there is no control, there is no chain of custody in the USB drives. Workers can stick a USB drive in. We could stick a USB drive into any of your laptops. You don't know what's on there, and you can change software, you can change operating systems with the USB drives. And the core of these systems is manipulability. This is the operator's manual and the implementation statement for 5.1. One of the myths that has been propagated even by the director of CISA at Homeland Security, which is the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, is that, well, these machines are not connected to the internet. In the operator's manual, there's a whole page of references that show you how and when to connect and what selectors to connect to servers and to routers, so it is connected to the internet. That's how you get election night reporting. That's through another company called Clarity Elections. They provide early reporting to the news media. Matter of fact, as I was looking at one of the counties where I saw the spike, I believe it's Oakland County. I was going to the Oakland County, the 2020 elections results, and I clicked on the elections results, and a warning flag pops up to the right side, and it says, "You're leaving this domain. You are going to ClarityElections./MI." So the information for the counties in your state isn't really maintained or owned by your county and state, but rather a corporation that's owned by SOE Software and Scytl, SCYTL, which is a Madrid, Spain corporation. It went bankrupt in May of 2020 and was purchased by another UK registered company. So we've recently found, and we're digging further, that there was a $400 million financial transaction to Dominion Voting Systems in October, 1 month before our election. We're digging into that, but we know through some of the leaked information from the Panama banking system that SGO, Smartmatic, and Dominion both share a physical address in a small building in Barbados as registered headquarters. So these companies share licensing agreements. They share a common core of their DNA is the code, is the software. And I'll be happy to provide you an electronic copy of this operator's manual. And when you read through here, and you can see all the options that administrators and operators of these systems have, like some of the previous witnesses mentioned, they can vote blank ballots, they can delete data, they can mass adjudicate write-in ballots, And so it is designed to be inaccurate. It's designed to, if an individual or a team of individuals had a malign purpose, this would be the tool that I would want to use.
Can I ask you,
Colonel, tell them the history of Smartmatic. When did it start? Where did it start?
Smartmatic,
and what was it developed to do?
Smartmatic was developed in Venezuela. Hugo Chavez was the president, and basically he invested, I believe, 28% of the money to fund Smartmatic to control the Venezuelan elections. I personally debriefed the son of a Cuban intelligence officer who was at dinner with two of Hugo Chavez's relatives when Maduro's election was in question due to the populist uprising in Venezuela. And they told him, the son of the Cuban intelligence officer, don't worry, it's guaranteed. Our father invested the money to start SGO. So,
and have they been involved